I'm Kim Curtis, CEO of Wealth Legacy Institute, and I want to talk about money, sports, and life. I was on a podcast last week as a guest, and the host was a former coach for Olympic swimmers. And it was interesting how he wanted to talk sports and the relationship of sports and leadership. And it really got me thinking about what is that intersection of sports, leadership, and also money. So let's have a conversation about that. And please feel free to share in the chat what your experience has been as it relates to what you learned from playing sports and how that has impacted your success today. But the very first thing I want to talk about is I was an athlete in high school and a couple of years in college, and I played field hockey, basketball, and softball. And I also was co captain of all three of those sports my senior year. And it really, quite frankly, taught me a lot. But before I get into that, I really want to talk about sports lingo and how the lingo that we hear with the announcers really translates into money and finance. And the very first thing I think of is defense wins championships. And what I mean by that is actually Bear Bryant, the Hall of Fame college football coach, uh, had the famous quote of offense sells tickets and defense wins championships. And I think that's true when it comes to money. When we think of offensive plays around money, we think of negotiating a salary, changing jobs, getting a side hustle. Those are all offensive moves. But defensively, creating a spending plan, long term investing, living within your means really are defensive plays. And so I love that expression is defense wins championships because that is very true when it comes to money. And the second thing I think of is hard work beats talent. And where I really see that more than anything is when I think of the medical profession or primarily doctors, they make a lot of money, high income earners, but may not necessarily have a high net worth. And so what happens is that they have high consumption where someone else may have a lower income but actually have a higher net worth because they have a very disciplined game plan, they save regularly and focus on the long-term goals based on their financial plan. So hard work beats talent hands down. And then the 5.5 inch court. I love that expression. You hear it a lot. And really, what it means is playing the game on the 5.5 inch court, and that is the space between your ears. I know it's interesting when it comes to money and finance that the game is not the investments that you own. The game really is behavioral and it's inside your head to be able to manage federal rate hikes of 75 basis points or the down market or a recession and not to mention, of course, inflation. There's so many things that could get into your head that get you off track on really what's important to you, not really the capital markets. It's really your own game, not someone else's game. And then I think of drive for show, putt for dough. I'm a golfer. I'm not a very good golfer. But when I play with my son, oh my gosh, he has these beautiful long drives that I love to watch, but I always beat him on the putting. Not that I'm a great putter, but I tend to beat him in the game on the putting. And so we could talk fancy around finance, these long drives. We could talk about small cap value tilt, tax loss harvesting, or backdoor Roth conversion. A number of different things that we could talk about as it relates to finance. However, when it really comes down to putt for dough, is really do you have that spending plan? Are you staying within the budget? Do you have a financial plan? How are you focusing on that compared to the long term game? So, the distance between where you are today and when you do step off, that's really the financial plan game. And the investments in between are tied to the financial plan. Do not get off track by the investments. It's really the plan and the what fact that you hope you have a plan. And then lastly, and it's the most important, is know your why. Why are you here? What is your passion and purpose? And how does all of this money business tied to sports fit into your why? So when I think back of my years in high school and college and my sports, I think what it gave me more, and all of those, if you've already noticed, are team sports, but to be able to have humility and to handle disappointment, also to be able to be coached with criticism and make a difference and improve from that constructive criticism. And also having a full plate. When you have a full plate and you play sports and you need to get your studies done, you have to have time management. And so it forces you to really manage the time and focus on the most important things that you had to focus on first. And I would say the other thing is that you're never satisfied. You always want to level up your game. And I would say that of all of those things, besides grit and resiliency, are some of my key takeaways when I played sports. And maybe lastly, I think the most important thing is to have a sense of humor because there's so many things that go wrong when you're playing sports, and to understand and put it in perspective, even though it really, really, really hurts when you lose a game when you're shooting for finals. Really, 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 really hurts. But that is how we show up. It's a foundation for learning, particularly around failure. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Please share with us your lessons that you learned through sports and how that's helped you today. And I'm happy to respond to the comments privately. But thank you for your time. Please subscribe and please share this with someone that you think it would be helpful for. Thank you.